Well, hey there, how you doing? Dave Fennoy here, another Wednesday, and here we are. Another Ask Dave Fennoy Anything. You can see one of my dogs walking by. I hope they don't bark at something and interrupt the show, but if it happens, hey, what am I going to do? All right, all the Ask Dave Fennoy Anythings live on my YouTube channel, Dave Fennoy Voiceover Training. So if you like this one, watched it, want to see some others, you can go there. It's available to you 24/7, 365. If you're interested in voiceover training with me, you can visit davefenoy.com, click on the Study VO tab at the top, and book yourself. And I was just on another show, and I decided that I gave a little gift to the folks on that show, so I'm going to pass it on to you. It just popped into my mind, so you're going to have to write this down. 20% off all voiceover packages for the next year if you use coupon code capital E, number 2, capital E. So easy to remember. Capital E, number 2, capital E, 20% off. All right. Well, without further ado, let's meet our guest, Danielle Famble. Hey, Danielle, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm real good. Sounds like we've got a little delay for some reason. Don't know why that is, but we will deal with it. So,
Okay.
Looking at your bio was quite interesting. I have some Texas roots myself. My mother grew up in East Texas, outside on a farm outside a little town called Lodi. Town so little, if you sneeze driving through, you missed it. Um,
Oh, gotcha.
but you, West Central Texas, Abilene? Yeah.
Yep. So I am from Abilene, Texas. It's a small town, but not super small.
Well,
In the middle of the state.
we know about Abilene because of all the westerns that I watched when I was a kid. So you got started as a performer when you were a kid, singing in church, performing in programs in local theater. How did that go? How did you get an interest in performing?
Well, I am a middle child, and so I guess I've heard that middle children like attention. So I was always doing things to around the house to get attention. I would always sing and dance and put on little plays or musicals at home, and um, and I just really enjoyed it. And so at church we would sing, and I like to sing in the choir, and I really like to sing. At school as well. So I just kind of grew up wanting to be on stage.
Ah, okay. So I want to be a star, mommy. And did you get well, why don't you get a teaching degree or study to be a doctor or something to?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I knew always that I wanted to be a performer, but my parents were okay with that, but they always thought, maybe have something else on the back burner just in case. And I knew for me, it was always Broadway or bust. And when I went to high school, we went to a trip to New York City. And as soon as I stepped foot on New York City soil, I knew I needed to be there. I
Wait,
knew it
wait, New
was
York
the
City
right
soil?
place
You
for
mean
me.
New York City concrete?
Well, yeah, concrete, definitely.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. There was one of the pictures I used that you had sent me that I used in the demo, and you were standing in the street and people, and was that early in your career in New York?
That was actually, um, probably 8 years after I'd moved to New York, but that place where I was standing in that picture is exactly where I was standing when I fell in love with the city. I don't
Wow.
know who falls in love with the city looking at Times Square and being in Times Square, but across the street, it's not there anymore, was a Sbarro's pizza place, and I remember in high school going in there and ordering a slice of pizza, and I being from Texas, you go in, you look around, you decide what you want, and then you make your decision, and you get what you ordered. And I did that. And the person at the counter was like, "Oh, no, no. You have to know what you want. So I'm going to go around you." And he kept going to the next person until I was ready. And I didn't like it at the time, but in the moment I was like, "Oh, you have to know what you want here." Like that's how it works. You have to know what you want. And I fell in love with that. So there was something about being there with the energy and the decisiveness of being in New York where I was like, yeah, here. I love it.
Okay, so you get to New York. Um, do you immediately get a job on Broadway, or is there training? You were a dancer and singer and actor, yes?
Yeah, so I before I came to New York, I studied music, classical music in college and minored in theater. And I did that because that school did not have a musical theater program. So I had to choose one or the other. But I knew after I graduated that I wanted to move to New York so that I could continue learning the things that maybe I didn't get to learn in my undergrad program. So as soon as I got here, first of all, I got a job and then another job because you need survival jobs to live here. And I started taking dance classes. I started taking singing lessons, and really, it was just kind of an extension of my studies in college.
Oh boy. So, how did I was always afraid of New York. The idea of LA I loved, but New York so big and so scary. But you fell in love with it.
Oh, I love it. I love the energy of the city. I mean, being from Texas, I did not see the four seasons. I just saw hot and hotter. So to be able to experience like life and see all these different people, different cultures, uh, Broadway, museums, it was an entirely different world than what I knew growing up. And I there was something about the energy of the city that just completely took me, and honestly, it has not let go since. I It's still my favorite city in the entire world.
And you live across the river, right, in New Jersey? Now, how
Yep, I live in Jersey City, so actually I can actually see New York City from, like, my view. So
Oh yeah,
I get the view of the city that I fell in love with, so it's perfect for me.
that's kind of nice. And without the New York prices.
Well, actually,
Yes,
it
okay,
kind
with
of
the New York
is.
prices.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your journey a little
Yeah.
bit. So you're studying and working in New York. You're doing shows. You're doing local theater. You're doing some theater in a few other places, and then somehow you end up on a cruise ship. How did you become a performer on a cruise ship, and what was that like?
I I knew that I love to travel, and being a performer in theater, for the most part, means that you do travel. So you go to regional theaters. I did some regional shows in Florida and Connecticut, and I always knew that that was a possibility of performing on cruise ships. A lot of my friends did that, and it looked like they had the best time. And you got to kind of bankroll money because you have no real expenses because living on the cruise ship is, included in what you're getting paid. So you could travel, make some money, sing, do what you love to do. In my mind, perfect. So I started auditioning for cruise ship jobs, and I booked a job with AIDA Cruise Lines, which is a German-based cruise ship company. I'm not sure that I knew that when I was auditioning that it was specifically a German-based cruise ship company, but I just wanted to work for any cruise line, and that was the one that I booked.
So
And with AIDA, you go to Hamburg, Germany.
Mhm.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so did the crew speak German, and did you have to learn to speak German?
Yes. Yeah. So the entire cruise is for German people, and so that they can have a German vacation, a German experience. And the crew spoke English, and the crew was from all over the world. Filipinos, there's a lot of German people were like the officers. In my group, it was a lot of Ukrainian dancers and maybe British people, but it was people from all over the world. So the crew spoke English, but the passengers spoke German, and our shows that we were doing were in English. So it was like, a Tina Turner show or a rock show, what
Yeah,
like
one
you would
one of the
normally
pic
see maybe at theme parks and things like that.
yeah, one of the pictures you sent was Tina. Was that from the cruise ship?
That was from when I was doing theme parks, and that was done in upstate New York. And yeah, that Tina wig was hot in the summertime.
Oh, I bet
I
it
remember
was.
it fondly.
So, what kind of things did you do on the cruise
Yeah.
ship? What were some of the crazy things that happened?
We Every single night of the cruise, we had a performance, and it was a different show every night. So we learned, 6 or 7 different shows. One of the shows was in German, so got to learn shows in German. But also, as a singer on the cruise ship, we were supposed to do spontaneous shows. So I was working on singing at the piano bar or doing, fun, like spontaneous shows. They have something called Schlager, which is really kind of like, I don't know. Actually, I don't know that we have anything like it. I mean, the closest thing might be Halloween,
Hmm.
but it's like carnival, and we would do the performances for that, and you get dressed up in something absolutely wild and crazy. So that happened at nighttime, but during the day, we weren't as singers, we weren't really working, and we were working, but we weren't, performing, so I had the day free. So if we were docked somewhere, I would go, maybe shopping at the mall. I did a lot of shopping at the mall, or working out or sleeping. You kind of had to just had the day to yourself,
Yeah.
and then you go on stage and perform at night. It was a really cool job.
And some of the places you got to go, a number of years ago, I was being invited to do Comic Cons in the Middle East. And I noticed that your ship docked in Abu Dhabi and um, also the Canary Islands. So I've
Yes,
been some places, but never the Canary Islands. How was that?
I didn't even know. So sad. I had no idea what the Canary Islands were or where they were. Um, so I learned it's small islands, Spanish islands, and Portuguese islands off the coast of Africa. And it's absolutely beautiful there. And we just did a week-long cruise and stopped, every single week was the same stop. So for about 6 or 7 months, I mean, it was kind of like Groundhog's Day, but in the best possible way. It's beautiful. And if you've never been, highly recommend go to the Canary Islands. They also do a really big fireworks show for New Year's. So there's
Okay,
that.
okay. Well, of course, it's a little earlier than our New Year's over here, just by a few hours, and it's different clock, all of that. So
Right.
now,
So
two
you could
years.
just hop if you
Yeah,
wanted
there you
to.
go. 2 years on a cruise ship and traveling around the world and singing. You come back to the States. When was it that somehow you discovered voiceover?
I discovered voiceover basically when I got back from the cruises. I knew that I didn't want to travel all the time. I knew that I wanted to be, this is my home, and I wanted to be home. And as much as I love to travel, at a certain point, I really wanted, those creature comforts of sleeping in your bed and having, your food from your refrigerator and all those things. And so I spoke to my manager at the time, and I said, I loved this, absolutely loved it, but I'd really like to be in one place for, a little bit longer. Is there anything else that I can do that's not taking me, so far away? And she said, yeah, there's on camera commercials or um, even voiceover. And I knew about voiceover because one of um, my survival jobs was waiting tables at comedy clubs in New York City. And one of my fellow waitresses was a voice actor, and she did voiceover for JCPenney years ago. And we were talking about it, and I always thought, man, that would be really cool to do, but getting into voiceover is tough. That community is really tight knit. And and I remember, talking to my manager, and she was like, "Yeah, take some classes." So I started taking classes in New York, and this is late 2018, early 2019. And I fell in love with it because I was using my voice, which is what I was trained to do, and acting as I was trained to do in this different way. So everything that I had worked my way up towards, going to college for music and theater and acting, in different theaters around the country and performing on cruise ships, it all informed my ability to take that, behind the mic.
Okay, so you've found out about voiceover. You love the idea of it. Where did you get trained?
I started taking classes with Andy Roth in New York. He would do like 6-week in person classes. Um, I was training with Tom Deere, who actually made my e learning demo. So I started, doing those kind of things. And I was also taking classes at One on One and Actors Connection in New York City. And I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And I thought, at the time I had a day job, survival job, and a night job, survival job. And I was thinking, all right, I need my days free. And I was planning on quitting my day job and just keeping my waiting tables night job at around 2020. Dun dun dun. We know what happened in
The
2020.
pandemic.
Um, I'm so glad that I didn't make Exactly. I'm glad I didn't make any moves prior to that time because when the pandemic hit, I had everything that I needed to record because I made my closet into a booth to record auditions, and I had the stuff. I just never really took the time or had, enough time to dedicate during the day because I had two survival jobs. And when we were in lockdown, that's when I really started um, taking more time to audition during the day and find opportunities and utilize the resources that I had. And that's when I started booking a lot of work. That's when my career trajectory,
So the
skyrocketed at that
pandemic
point.
wasn't good for most people, but it was good for you.
I, I had a productive pandemic, sure. Yeah.
It's interesting. I have to confess that the pandemic did not affect me because I had a home studio, and I think the pandemic actually uh, has made it a little bit easier on a lot of us because I know in the video game world and the animation world, um, suddenly it wasn't imperative that you come into the studio. If you had a studio at home, they could check out your studio. Does this work? Does this work? Is it up to par? If it is, great. Thank you, because now you can work. And we're still doing that. Now, we're finally getting back to going into studios. This last few weeks, I've had a number of jobs where I had to drive, had to leave my house. Oh, my. I actually kind of like that.
Oh.
Um, I notice your studio there. You've got a 416. It looks like. Is that the closet that you started in?
No, no. I actually even moved from that apartment actually, but no, this is the booth that I work in now. It's interesting because I saw both sides of it. So I was auditioning for voiceover in person in studios in New York pre-pandemic. And then I, was part of that mass migration to get your home studio, get Source Connect, figure out how to use it, educate yourself, go, go, go. And I have not been back in a studio really for like sessions since. I've not. I think maybe I did one because something was wrong with my equipment or something at home, but maybe one in the 4 years since we've been. But for the most part, I mean, this right here is where I do my work
Cool.
full
Well,
time.
let me ask you a few
That's
more
it.
questions about your studio because there are people out there that don't have theirs. You've got a 416. That is my mic of choice. I have a 103 also I can swing in if necessary. It's hardly ever necessary. What's your
Sure.
interface?
I have the SSL2,
Okay.
and before that, I had the Scarlett Solo.
Okay. Okay. So you stepped up a little bit. Um, and
Yes, I
is this
grew as I grew.
is this a booth that you bought, built, or made from your closet?
This is a booth from Complete ISO Booths. I bought this booth in 2020, and it is has been um, set up here for me, but it's been taken down and set up. It's pretty much just plywood. Um, yeah, it's pretty much plywood. I would say maybe it's a single wall,
Yeah.
potentially a double wall, but they don't do it the way Studio Bricks or Whisper Rooms do theirs. So
Well, they
it's
might be a
but
little
it's
less
from Complete
expensive.
ISO Booths that I bought in 2020.
Yeah, if I had it to do all
And
over again,
yes,
I
yeah,
might do the studio
exactly.
bricks. But my whisper room that I've had for years is working just fine. And you know what? There's nothing that happens to it. You walk in, you close the door, you do your thing, and away you go. So now, what do you attribute your success to? What's the thing that you learn? What clicked that suddenly you started booking?
I I've often said that for me, voiceover is music. There's so much to it that is so similar to me with my musical training and my background, with listening and the rhythm and the repetition and the timbre of your voice and um, so much of it is music that my background I think helped me interpret copy really quickly or take direction when I'm in a directed session. So for me, I think I lean on my experience and I lean on what I know, and what I know has been music, and taking that into what I'm doing now. And I think also, and this is very recent, Dave, I'll be honest, I think it's just trusting myself and trusting my gut and my instincts. Um, that's I've been acting for a really long time, and so I know, I know what I know, and I'm teachable as well. But I'm learning. I have learned also to trust myself that I know how to do what I'm doing, and if it's not right, someone, the director or whomever can give me that feedback. But to trust myself, like you can hear that,
Yeah.
especially on this 416 for sure.
Well, I'm gonna say I think my musical background and acting background from a child and teenager and young 20s helped my voiceover career because there's something about the rhythm of music um, that you automatically kind of bring into what you're doing, which I always find a little funny when you say, "Well, no,
Hmm.
stop singing those words, say those words." Uh, but it does help.
Yeah.
And I didn't know when you started your career, but it's pretty recent. We're talking, pandemic, and you've done quite well.
Yeah.
Your list of clients is a who's who of people, and this year you were at VO Atlanta, but not just as a voice actor wanting to meet and greet and go to some panels and so forth. You were leading a panel. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that was my first time at VO Atlanta, by the way. So that was it was amazing. It's huge. It's a huge conference. And I spoke on running your business the way a CEO runs a company. That I spoke on uh, VO business because I truly believe that unless you are really thinking about this career and what you're doing as running a business, I think that's really where the longevity will take us, especially now in this post-pandemic, recording from your home studios primarily world. And I spoke about that. My parents, my grandparents were entrepreneurs. So for me, I'm also an entrepreneur running a business. And I wanted to speak about um, what I've learned and the trials and errors, or what I called turbulence, because my talk was titled Navigating Turbulence. Um, what I've learned from that and how I can use that to be more confident in the business that I'm running and recognize that I am in fact running a business.
Well, you understand, of course, I've got to ask you, tell us some of the things about navigating that turbulence. How do you become your own CEO of the Danielle Famble voiceover company?
Well, I my thought is that you need to, whenever you're running a business, you need a plan, you need goals. And so I'm considering that from I used a plane analogy. So with a pilot in the cockpit of their plane, they need to look out and survey the landscape. Before you figure out where you're going, figure out what your goals are and what you want to do. So you first need to set goals, clear goals about where you're trying to go, and figure out what you're doing now that can get you to your goals. And then you need to make sure that the things that you're doing in your business are standardized and procedures. I told the story, it's quite embarrassing that I forgot to deliver some audio files to a client before I went on vacation.
Mm.
And that was turbulence because I didn't realize that I'd missed it. And it was because I didn't have a proper protocol or procedure or standard operating procedure for how I ran my business when it came to bookings. And had I had uh, a procedure, I would have known where I was in that process before I got on the plane to go to my vacation. I would have known, hey, you didn't go through the steps, but I didn't have steps. So making sure that you um, know the procedures of how you run your business day to day.
Okay.
And then I
How
also talked
costly was
about
that? How costly was
confidence,
that lesson?
CEO confidence and mindset. I'll be honest with you. It was I was able to make it work. I was only like a couple, maybe a day or two getting the audio files back, but the lesson was pretty costly in that it was my reputation with this client, and that I did not do what I said that I was going to do. Um, and it was really like kind of wounded me because I pride myself on doing what I need to do and being very type A, and I didn't. So it was mostly it was non-tangible in terms of funds, but it was costly in terms of my relationship with that client. Still worked with that client, things it worked out fine, but I realized that I needed support and I needed accountability. So I ended up hiring a virtual assistant to help me, run my business, and that helped. So that's, been a cost, but also as my dad calls it, bought sense, because sometimes you got to pay for it.
Oh yeah, and you know it's interesting. I myself, I don't think I'm a great businessman. I've been very fortunate in this business because I think when I came into the business, it was a little different thing. Of course, you had an agent. You were in the union, so your agent was going to send you out on auditions. You were going to book them. They were going to call you, let you know where you needed to go to do the job. You sign your contract. Uh, SAG and AFTRA are making sure that you get your money, and if it doesn't come in on time, they are uh, charging extra to the client, and your pension
Mm-hmm.
and welfare and health care, when you're making enough money, is also being taken care of. But
Mm-hmm.
that world is a little different now. It still exists. It's still the world I live in mostly.
Oh yeah.
But voiceover business these days is much broader. There's more work now than ever before, more people in it than ever before, and so many are not working
Oh
necessarily with
yeah.
the benefit of the union. And even if they are, because we have our own home studios and uh, we are recording, sending files, billing, uh, it's a different world than it once was. So how do you interact with your
Absolutely.
virtual assistant?
First of all, we have a meeting once a week to align on goals. We talk every day on Slack. Um, and for me, I needed to figure out what I was going to delegate to her, and how that process would work, which took a lot of trial and error. But now at this point, she has visibility into my email inbox, so she can see what's coming in. Sometimes she'll ping me and say, "Hey, did you see this email or did you respond?" Um, and what we've got going now is that I will record everything, and I'll save it into Dropbox, which we both have access to. And she will do a lot of the paperwork, the admin that I used to hold so tightly to because I didn't trust that anybody else could do it half as good as me, which isn't true. And so she will, while I'm recording, she'll create the invoices, or we do send out like the AI writer, so she prepares that and sends me a screenshot so that I can approve it. And then once I send out the audio, she will follow up with the invoice and any other paperwork that they need. But for the most part, she is handling a lot of that data entry inputs, those kinds of things that take up a lot of your time and your day. As you were saying, it's a lot of things that other people in the pipeline would have dealt with. And now, as a business owner, as a voiceover business, you're handling all of it. And so for me, I needed help, clearly, because I didn't send my audio files to the
That one audio
client before I
file.
went on
I
vacation.
don't think that's a mistake I've ever made. Sometimes they haven't gotten there because of some technical glitch. And I tell you, actually, I'm a little bit jealous because I have a person that helps me, not nearly as much as what you have delegated. And I was just reading something the other day about people who are successful and in their businesses. And one of the bits of advice that made me raise an eyebrow and go, maybe I need to do that a little bit more, is delegating certain tasks to people. The more time you have to actually do the heart of your business, the more time you're going to devote to the heart of your business and not bog yourself down with little tasks. So I'm glad I have my agent. I'm glad I have my assistant. I need to have her do more.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's listening now. She's probably going, "Oh no, oh no, oh
Yeah,
no."
and that yeah, she's probably like, "Oh gosh, more? Okay." It's not something that I think comes naturally, especially to someone who is a solopreneur who's been doing all of the things, because for me, I was like, "Well, I've been doing it and it's been going fine. Why give her this task or this task?" And so what I did was I took a stack of note cards. This is actually how I decided to what to delegate. I took a stack of note cards and I wrote down all the things that I do on a daily basis, be
Give me
it,
an example
in
of
my
what
personal
what.
life, wake up, make breakfast, whatever.
Brush your teeth. Don't forget brush your teeth.
Wake up, make breakfast, brush my teeth, shower, all the hygiene, mom. um, make sure that, do my laundry, fold my laundry, unload the dishwasher, and even in the business. So auditioning, uh, invoices, follow up. Did somebody pay? Is that still outstanding? Making sure that I have the scripts that I need. Um, all those kind of things. And I put each task on a note card, and I gave myself 5 minutes to just brain dump all the things that I do. And then I went back on each note card and I wrote down, do I have to do it? Or could somebody else do it? If somebody else did it, would it still get done? And so looking at each one of those tasks, I decided some of them, yeah, I still want to do it because it's important to me to do it. Or I'm the only one who can do it, recording my auditions, things like that. But I didn't have to do some tasks. And so I figured out what I was comfortable delegating. I have a meal delivery service. And so, going to the grocery store and buying the groceries and the ingredients and all that stuff, that's delegated. My virtual assistant, like I said, she creates the invoices, but she's not, sending them out rogue. I'm still um, approving them.
Yeah,
So really, you become a manager instead of just working
yeah.
in every
As
facet of
Oprah
your
said,
business.
you're signing all your own checks.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
I want to get some. Whoa, just get rid of that. We'll want to get some questions here. Um, DF Raisin, hi Dave, hi Danielle. Even though politics isn't my forte, living in the DC area, it makes sense to do political spots to earn money between the fun stuff. How do you get into doing the political VO spots? Is this an area you've been working in? And how did you get into
This is
that?
an area I do a lot of work in, and I enjoy it. So, first, you do need a demo. You need a political demo. But before that, you need to pick a side. You really do. You need to pick whichever side that you are going to be voicing for and stick with that side. Um, some people may consider that controversial, but I think now at this point, you got to pick a side. For me, Democrat or progressive, that is the side that I've chosen. It also aligns, with my values, and for the most part. I I would say get a demo, study with some people. I would say J. Michael Collins, he did one of my political demos. I would, huge recommendation. And then you can start, that's one that you can actually, if you do any sort of like SEO or marketing on your own, you could definitely market that. I've seen, if you're on pay to plays, I've seen them on pay to plays as well. Um, but I would just start marketing your demo, but the first thing is pick a side, get a
Yeah,
demo,
well,
then
I
start
think most
marketing
of
it
us
out.
have picked our side. I know very few people who do political that could work both sides. Um, I wouldn't, too, Democrat, left leaning, progressive, and I could not bring myself
Yeah.
to get talk about a message that I don't believe in. And I personally think politics is more important than commercials. Don't really eat at McDonald's. I'll do a lot of McDonald's commercials. Well, I have a Lexus, and I have another car. I have a Tesla as well, but I do Lexus commercials. Um, but if I weren't the Lexus voice,
Yeah.
I would not have a problem doing commercials for another car brand. But some things are too important.
Mhm.
I've often told students our
Yeah.
job is to get people to buy products that perhaps we don't use, and watch TV shows that maybe we would never watch. But we're part of the business
Sure.
cycle here, and you have to understand that's what you're doing. But we all have a line we won't cross. And yes, J. Michael does great demos in general and great political demos. So, what are you looking forward to this political season? uh, for your political voiceover?
Honestly, for me, I love voicing for things that I truly believe in, as you say. So for me, if it's something that, that I agree with and that I would normally, say yes with my vote, then I'm happy and enthusiastic to say yes with my voice. So for me, I'm looking forward to just all the political ads that are coming. There's going to be a lot of it. Apparently, there's like more money being thrown in advertising this cycle than ever
Than
before. But I
ever
feel like that
before. This
happens every
is
year.
we're
But
gonna hate it, but there's gonna be a lot of money spent. Um, and I've noticed that every
there's a
election
lot of work out
cycle,
there. There
there's
really
more
is.
money and more money and more money and more money, which I'm not sure is a good thing for the nation, but in the short term,
Right.
uh, some of us in the voiceover world, in the advertising world, are going to make a little bit of money. So let me ask you this. Now, would you call yourself, having done VO Atlanta, are you somebody who would use your services to help people become the CEOs of their voiceover businesses?
As in, like, would I start coaching people?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Honestly, I haven't. I've thought about it, but I really don't see that as my path.
Okay.
Um, I think there are some phenomenal coaches out there. So maybe that's just like a personal, maybe confidence thing. But I
And
do
maybe
want
you
to do
feel
more
like you haven't been
speaking, though.
doing
I
it long
definitely
enough.
want to. Maybe, maybe. And I think maybe I just need to open up my heart to it because it's been something that a lot of people have asked. This isn't the first, time I've been asked that question. So maybe I definitely have a perspective and I have the business that I've built to show for it. And there's value there for sure. So I'm trying to figure out how I use that to help as many people as possible. And one thing I really enjoyed doing, I loved giving that presentation, and I want to do a lot more of it. So if that's the direction and the path for it, then yeah,
Yeah, no,
then the
I,
answer
I,
is
I
yes.
think what you offered there and what you've talked about here um, sounds very valuable. Um, I've I have somebody that helps me with a
Mm,
few little things, but I've never been willing to give up the reins of some things. And how you said you put it together, I wrote down everything I
yeah.
do every day. Let me ask you this: um, do you have multiple agents? How do you keep your auditions in line that they're getting to the right place at the right time? I know for myself, I have multiple agents. Sometimes you're getting the same copy, this one a little earlier than that one, so forth and so on. And so many communications from time to time, I've missed something because I'm working, I'm auditioning, I'm teaching, and I'm living a regular life. How do you keep it all together? How does that AI,
That's
your
yeah.
your your helper, help you keep those auditions together? Oh, and also multiple agents,
So
pay
for
to play,
yeah.
finding your own business.
So I have an agent in New York, innovative artists, love them, and I'm with ACM Talent Management. So not I don't have a ton of different representation that I'm having to manage, several of them. But the first thing that I do, but I am getting a lot, especially with ACM, I'm getting a lot of auditions. It's there's a lot coming my way. So first thing I do in the morning is I will go through my emails, and I use Gmail's labeling feature where you can actually like create a label. So I'll go through my emails and I'll just label, okay, this is an audition, this is not, this is an audition. And then I have this folder that's just auditions. and then I'm able to kind of keep everything together. Um, I'm telling all my business. My assistant and I use a plugin. It's like a it's on top of Gmail called Jamelius, where she can like tag me in an email that's not like responding to an email and, tagging me in that. Like it's sort of outside to the side of the emails. So she can just tag me and say, "Hey, you missed this one," or, "This needs
Oh, so and
an invoice or
this is an
something."
AI, not a
And
human being.
this is the human being.
Ah,
Her name is Katie, and she can tag me using the Jamelius platform that we use, like with our email. It's kind of anyway.
yeah.
It's called Jamelius. I
It
would say Google
sounds.
it if anybody's interested.
It's having the gray hair I have, I am not I'm fairly technical. I'm fairly into the technology. I have my issues with it from time to time. Uh, but I think the older you get, the less you keep up with it. I often say I'm running as fast as I can to keep from falling too far behind. Um, I did not know a thing about Jamaica. That's amazing. Now, one of the things I do love, since we're talking about it, is being
I
able
didn't
to
know.
go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know about it either, and one thing I didn't mention is that, surprise, I'm a nerd. I used to my day job when I before I started doing voiceover was working at the Apple Store. So, for me, if I can, like, find a cool tech something or other, that just sets my heart, pitter patter. So, I was looking for a way that I could communicate with my virtual assistant in my email and happen to find this thing. And so I'll try a lot of different tech gadgets or software. I think it's fun because I'm a nerd, like I said, and so I found this one, but I haven't heard anyone else talking about it. I've never heard anyone else mention it before.
You know, I've never actually talked about uh, what I do with my email, and it's very similar. Typically use my Mac Mail, but I also use Gmail. But I have things coming to various folders, different people in different groups, so that I don't miss auditions or try not to. But even then, sometimes between audition,
Hmm.
between work, between students, from time to time, something slips through the cracks. There's been more often than I'd like to admit that I'm sending in an audition a little bit late with an apology to my agent. Hey, I'm really sorry. I hope you can get this in. And I'm sure they're going, okay, Fennoy, all right, we'll get it in for you. And then I feel really guilty when I book it. Oh, gee, all those other people got theirs in on time. Oh well.
Well, happens. It
Yeah.
happens.
So, what other areas of voiceover that you're not working in would you like to be working in?
I really want to get the I think confidence to do what you do. I'm really interested in video games, animation, like the character stuff, which is so interesting coming from a theater background. I that's what I used to do on stage. For me, there's a little bit of a block there maybe, or I think I need to just do more coaching. So thank you for that discount code at the very beginning of the call. But that's you know you gotta bring it back. You gotta bring it back.
You know what?
Um,
And
but that's really kind of where I would love to do.
so animation and video games. Well, let me just. When you were taking acting classes, what did your acting? What are the things your acting teachers told you uh, about acting?
They were talking about, being present in the imaginary circumstances that you were given, like in the script. Um, that's, really it. It's just it's the honest delivery of the text that you're given and the circumstances that you're given by the writer, and just to honor that
Yeah, I'm going to give
authentically.
you a little of what I teach. And
Mhm.
sometimes people go, "Oh, you're just giving that away for free?" Yeah, well, I promise you, just knowing the information isn't knowing how to do it. But hopefully, this will help. Um,
Sure.
what just happened that you're reacting to? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you doing? Who are you talking to, and what's that relationship? I know they talk about the what do you want, but when you said your imagination, that's what we who just have a microphone and words on a page have to have, is the imagination to fill in those things we're missing if we're on stage or on camera. What are we wearing? What are we dressed like? Are we in armor? Does a medieval world? Are we a soldier? Are we a doctor? Are we in a hospital? Are we in a castle? Are we in an office? And what does that look like? We have to use our imagination. It's not about the words. I think all too often we're paying too much attention to the words and not everything else. Um, One of my favorite directors and good friend of mine, Mark S. Dale out of the UK, we were talking once and he said, the words are the exhaust of the acting engine. And I went, whoa, whoa,
Mm.
man, that's it, man.
Mm.
The words are the
Yeah.
exhaust of the acting engine, dude. Um, Sounded like we were high when we did that. Anyway, just a little note out there, because if you have an acting background, you want to bring. It's the same thing. They just don't see you, but that doesn't mean that your motion,
Yeah.
your facial expressions, uh, won't be felt. I see people sometimes. I want to do it from here. Can't do it from there. What would your character be doing? Do that. What would be the look on their face? Allow that look.
Mm.
And I bet if I were watching you in a session with commercials, I would see all of that in your face, because I've listened to your demos, and you're very regular. You are a person that you feel like you're which is very much what the
Yeah.
industry right
Thank
now
you.
is looking for, is um, the girl next door. I know for us as Black people, the roles
Mhm.
expanded. I remember when I was a kid, you didn't see Black people on commercials, and if you saw a show with Black people, it was about racism.
Yeah.
Now it's not, and now we see everybody. We see
Right.
our Asian
Yeah.
brethren and sistren. We see
Mhm.
our Latin brothers and sisters. We see mixed brothers and sisters. Um, and the world that's
Yeah.
presented to us is more the world that it is. Yeah, Miss
Mhm.
Miss Nerdy Girl.
Yeah.
Oh, let me bring up
I
another.
mean,
Go ahead.
no, I mean, that's it's totally true, and not only, is it good to see yourself on screen, it's good to hear yourself, in commercials or video games, or, out in the world, because, you know, it's kinda corny, but really, like, if you can see it, you can be it, and I know I didn't see myself that much, on TV growing up, and it's one of the things that I love so much about being an actor, because I've seen the look of, little brown girls seeing me, on stage, and there's something transformative there. It's a really important thing to be doing and to be seen and to be visible, so, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we all need role models. And it's interesting as I look what the world looked like when I was a child and what the world looks like now. And I know we have not gotten to perfection yet, but it's a much better world now, despite all the madness we're
Sure.
going through now, um, than it was before. And
Yeah.
I just hope that those people that are trying to take us back into some kind of imagine better America that did not include everybody, uh, I just hope
Hmm.
they are not successful. That would just be terrible, terrible. So, what's next for
Yeah.
you? What's the thing that you want to accomplish now that you haven't accomplished yet?
Um, I want to actually, this is totally separate, but not really. I'm getting into real estate and real estate investing. And so I actually bought a house in Texas, in my hometown, my um, close to like my childhood home. And so I'm really hoping to and wanting to learn more about, you know, taking the principles that I've learned in this business that I've created,
Hmm.
and taking that to another business because I do think these are transferable skills. So I want to keep doing what I'm doing. And as far as voiceover, I love what I do. I love what I do, and build another income stream, another business. Um, and also I have started taking some classes and coaching for character work for video games. So I definitely want to do more of that, and even just talking about it with you now was just, it kind of brought me back to how would feel in acting class, and that I definitely miss that.
Well, there you go. Well, you know what? I'm here.
I mean, who could I find who could help me?
Oh, there you
Here
go.
you go.
There you go. So, we're just about out of time, and you saw before we got going, I have some guests that have arrived at the house that I'm gonna go have dinner with. Last thoughts, last words about what you're doing, what you'd like to do, advice you would leave for people knocking on the door, and how advice for them running their voiceover business. And I say that with the idea that maybe I can learn something too.
Um, well, first of all, recognize that you are, in fact, running a business. I think that's key, because as actors, remember, in theater, so much of it was being so grateful for the exposure, and that it's just you accept what comes, and you take what you can get, and that's not the mindset of businesses and as a business run. So recognize, one, that you are running a business, and ask for help when you have questions. I will say one of the things that has taken me as far as I feel like I've come is asking people much smarter than me for help and for advice, getting a mentor if you need that. But don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't just ask to find the answer. I would also say document the process and document the answer for yourself,
Mm.
because somebody is going to ask that question again, and then you can actually become the teacher with what you've learned. So this isn't just uh, to just get the answer and then let it synthesize it and go away. Really document, what have you learned, how are you doing things now, because then you can help somebody going forward, instead of just taking up information and storing it in the back of your mind. Really document your process, figure out what you've learned, and then you can help somebody else someday in the future.
Fantastic, Danielle. A lot of wisdom in what you just had to say. I want to thank you for joining me on Ask Dave Fennoy Anything.
Thank you.
And I apologize to our guests. There has been some kind of delay. Um, it made the conversation just a little stilted, but the conversation was good nonetheless. The information was fantastic. And bravo, congratulations on all your success. And I'm sure we will be talking again. I'll have you on again. And way to go. All
Thank
right,
you, Dave. I
everybody.
appreciate it.
You are welcome. There she is, Danielle Famble, a real success story, and just calm and down to earth. When I speak to people, you don't know, but she's right there, just right there. All right, this and all the other Ask Dave Fennoy anythings are on my YouTube channel, Dave Fennoy Voiceover Training, available to you 24/7, 365. If you are interested in voiceover training with me, davefennoy.com, click on the Study VO tab. And if you would like a 5, 10, or 12 package, 20% off with the code E, capital E, number 2, and another capital E, just 3 little digits there, capital E, number 2, capital E. And until the next time, I'm going to suggest you do one thing, as I always do: book something.